Here we are again, people. It's that time, it's that place in the universe for an episode of Iris of Our Eye, number 28, I believe. I'm sitting down here with is it Blue Sky or Sky Blue?
I go by my name's BlueSky, one word, no cap. But if you want to use like a name to kind of when you're trying to refer to me, go on and say blue sky, blue sky, whatever you prefer.
No, so I was just curious, is that like your artist name or is
My
that
artist
like
name,
yeah,
no, my name is BlueSky, one word, no cap. Those four words are just a part of me teaching you how to say and how to spell it.
sure.
So that is my performance name.
Okay. My name is Blue Sky. I like that. Um
Mhm.
I like just the feels very like peaceful to me. Uh
I would explain the story behind it, but I'm like, is that something you want to?
oh yeah, for sure. We'll
Is
get
that even a relevant topic?
I think so. First, personally, I just was gonna explain how I met you. We met on Threads. He was just like looking to be on a podcast, and I was like, I need people to be on my podcast, so it just kind of like blended very well. And to my knowledge, you make music. And is there anything else that's like the thing that your art?
I am a singer, songwriter, you know, arranger, mixer, sometimes master. I don't always master my work.
Hmm.
I write poetry.
Nice.
I do art, like visual art from time to time. I do my own art direction. And very rarely I like make videos, but I would love to do that more often.
Hmm.
So, I'm always kind of putting fingers in different pies, different artistic pies. And I feel like this is the kind of thing that would most definitely benefit me in the future, seeing as how nowadays being an artist, pretty much requires you to kind of dip your fingers into a whole lot of pies because everybody wants content now. I hate that
Right.
word. It's a very not I've always said it's a very nondescript nothing burger, saying a product. This is a product that you sell. This is not just a product, it's what it is.
Hmm.
It's art. It's something that's supposed to kind of enhance the experience of performing of everything that you're trying to sell through the music. After all, I've always looked at music as kind of an audiovisual experience. Every time you listen to music, I don't know if everybody does this, but whenever some people listen to music, they sometimes picture a little music video.
Hmm.
So imagine you're listening to a song, and you have a music video, and you suddenly picture damn near a whole show, a whole audiovisual narrative.
Hmm.
So that to me isn't content. It's a way of basically turning what most people think is just music into almost a movement. Hell, look at My Chemical Romance. They not only put out music, they had commercials, they had short films, they had fans participate where they kind of named them. Um, During the, say, Danger Days,
Hmm.
there were a whole lot of people who saw like fake commercials, some videos, and there are a lot of My Chemical Romance fans who made, say, their own name as a part of, the member of the Fabulous Killjoys. So it's never just content, but it's kind of a way of helping people be a part of the art.
No, I definitely think that's
If people looked at music that way, they probably wouldn't be very begrudged to the idea of, working with TikToks and stuff, which I used to be until I realized exactly how much it could actually help in terms of not only selling your music, but also in terms of trying to turn music into something more.
Mm-hmm.
Ziggy
Totally.
Stardust, David Bowie dressed as Ziggy Stardust. He dressed as the Thin White Duke and even acted as the Thin White Duke. That's his method acting ways. So it's almost like trying to bring the experience outside of the music and into the real world or into television. Just make yourself art.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying about content being just like this abstract nothing burger that doesn't really like mean
Mean,
anything.
yeah, the more that people call it that, the more that I am sure that people don't want to make content for anything. Because what the hell? It's almost like you want to just pump out anything. And if by chance you are very careful and you're very, you have intent with what you're making, then you're not going to make just anything. You're going to make something that is going to help with what you have been creating.
Yeah, right. I feel like there's definitely a logical sequence of like you start with the unrefined, like not super skilled s section saga of your life, and then as you progress, it's like the next thing. Maybe sometimes, not all the time, you just like gotta like take the foot off the gas and like coast for a little while when you after you finish a big project, but like each project should in some way, shape, or form that you make as an artist like weave together and tell like the changing tapestry of your life as you're living it.
Mm-hmm. There's a huge reason as to why, fun fact, I love concept albums.
Hmm.
They will most definitely, I keep rolling out ideas. About Pink Floyd's The Wall and The Who's Tommy and a whole lot of concept albums back then. They had their own movie. They had characters, they had a movie. I truly believe that bands back in the day would most definitely, be on TikTok a lot to be able to push those ideas and to help, roll out those movements and eras.
Hmm.
But I don't know if artists today who are putting out music really think of it that way. For example, I saw like years ago Florence and the Machine. I think it was Florence and the Machine or Halsey both complained that their major label wanted them to start making TikTok videos to sell their music.
Hmm.
But but if you saw any Florence in the Machine music videos for Dance Fever, they all feel like they have, one setting. So the one thing that you could have done is approach it like Janelle Monáe, who you never know if she's Janelle Monáe or if she's Cindy Mayweather in the videos. All you know is that it's content that somehow connects with her image and her art right around the time of whatever she was releasing at the time.
Sure. I think yeah, the whole notion of it being like a cultural, like, I don't know if icon is really the right word, but like making it so there's like multiple mediums with which your music can be interwoven or like plugged into, and that like you have
Sorry.
like no, you're good. Like a narrative of like this thing is also like fits into like this overarching idea that I'm bringing into the world. I think is actually like super important for people that yeah, some people aren't multidimensional in that way or multidisciplinary, like they only want to just do one thing. And I think in some ways that's a really great like characteristic of people was to like become a master of your craft and be like an incredible musician. But when you're not getting the support from the industry or of like giant labels that are putting millions of dollars into like making marketing for you, that like if you're just going to be independent, you do need to like put on a bunch of different hats and be able to like create videos and also that like support your music or like get on podcasts and like talk to people about your stuff or like write fucking poetry or whatever it's going to be able to get enough attention or like resonate with enough people that are gonna want to interact with your stuff and like enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the questions that I generally like to ask all the people. It's like the first question that I like to start with. It's just, what is art to you?
It's not my thoughts, but somebody said that art is a way of kind of holding your mirror up to society. But, I guess I kind of looked at it wrong. It's almost like you're trying to show society and saying, this is what you look like. And it's almost like trying to be like the society think that it looks ugly.
Mm,
But this is kind of the truth. It's the same way as going into a forest and just painting a picture of the forest. It's like, this is the beauty of the forest, or this is exactly what it looks like. All the, trees standing up, but also the trees kind of cut down because it's about to be made into paper and shit.
mm,
So in some ways, it could also be art can capture the beauty of life as well as it can capture the ugly of it.
mm,
So to me, it's almost like, if this is the real world, this is what the real world looks like.
mm,
From the vantage point of somebody who has a very unique vision of what things are.
mm-hmm.
Hmm. So anytime someone say holding up a mirror to society is literally doing just that. It's just saying, this is how the world looks. Do you think it looks beautiful? Do you think it looks ugly? And if you think that the things in the mirror look horrible, it's because, things in real life look horrible. You know, this is a picture of how things are,
Mm,
and or a picture of how I guess I look at things, because, everybody has their own perspective of how the world looks.
right. No, that's really great way of saying it. Um, I like to think of it as like almost intentional communication, or like, yeah, just whatever medium you use to make it is like you're trying to express some idea or some message or some feeling that you're having as an artist, and that once it leaves you and enters that medium and goes out for other people to like look at or share, like their perspectives hit your perspective, it's like then like that's where people get to decide if it's art or not. Like that's the whole like weirdness of art. It's like some people will say that like, oh, that's not art if it's not done the way that they think it's supposed to, but then it still can be art. And that's, I just love that weirdness of that our minds are the things that are deciding what is and isn't like real art or art in general.
Mhm.
So I guess kind of taking it back to you as an artist, where in your life, or like how did you come to creating music and being creative as a thing that you wanted to do?
It's gradual. I
Hmm.
started off just, playing guitar and keyboards when I was in college because, it's something to do.
Sure.
I didn't really fully lean into any real intent with what I was doing. I was just creating music, on the side.
Hmm. So it's just like a hobby that you like picked up for fun?
In a way,
Sure.
I did hope that, I mean, I did hope that I made music good enough to be released on a label or something.
Hmm.
And all this was way before I knew anything about like DIY or, you know, truly like indie movement and how to even be a part of that. But I think it's around 2014 where I started making music. I started getting back to making music with some real creative intent. This one has more of a purpose, and that sent me onto my journey.
Hmm.
And I started writing a little bit more about life, but especially about what it's like to have autism. That started with Human Beyond Repair. Like that was my project. To just write an album about what it feels like and what it, is to have autism from, you know, the perspective of myself and the perspective of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I started taking art a little bit more seriously once I realized that I have, real, like I have intent, like the reason as to why I even do music in the first place. Some people just made music because it was fun. Some people do it because, it's what they can do. But me, that used to be a thing. Like I know how to make music, but I feel it's like, is this music that you can use? Is this music that you can try and understand the world through?
Mm-hmm.
And the closer I get to that, the more, I started making music with that picture, with that idea in mind. And, things start to slowly take off from there.
Sure. Yeah, it's different. It's different when you come at it with that versus like a lot of it, because it's in my mind, when people imagine musicians, especially like super like world famous musicians, it's like they're considered entertainers. So there's like this level of just like surface level of like we're just entertaining, and there isn't a really like deep meaning or like not so much spiritual, but like just a deeper like truth or sharing of a story in it a lot of the times in like the mainstream stuff that's like touted as like professional or whatnot.
Yeah, I
But
could never do that. I could never just be an entertainer. That means that even if you don't have something to say, you kind of leave the words to everybody else. You leave everything to everyone. I can't. I have way too many things to say and way too many ideas that, needs to be recorded to kind of leave the work to somebody else. So all I had to do is step on the stage and just, you know, show to just put somebody else's work on display.
right, yeah, the
Even if
having
I'm
sure.
sorry,
Don't need to apologize. I was just gonna say ghostwriters is just like such a wild concept to me, or like studio musicians. Not to say that those people aren't like important to making really great songs, but it's just like it's crazy to me that people like don't want credit or are like okay with like taking a back seat in the like not so much in like the vision of the product, but are like they're just gonna let other people like the star brand like take the credit and like not want to be the people. I don't know, just weird to
I'm
me.
I'm pretty I'm pretty sure that even ghostwriters have something we want to say, but it's all about the fact that maybe they can't sell it as much.
Right.
There's a whole lot of people who are great at writing songs.
Hmm.
Like they're great at writing songs, they're great at composing songs, but they're not always the best in terms of like performing it with the gravitas that the songs need.
Sure.
So I don't. I guess you can say that ghostwriters have their place. There are some people who don't know how to put certain words together in terms of what they have to say, but the ghostwriters do.
Hmm.
Ghostwriters don't always have like the energy. They don't have what people call the riz, the aura. They don't always have that something to be able to
Sure.
like truly sell the work.
Right.
And the artists that are buying their work, they have it.
Right. Sex
So
sells. Sex sells.
it can. It depends. Not all the time.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
s-
it
you
content.
saw how if you were in the year 2000s, you saw how Heidi Montag went through. Like she was trying to sell sex, be honest, and people heard the music and they're like, "This is trash." So it all depends. Do you have, and that's why even if you can say sex sells, it's not the only thing that sells. If you don't have the talent, then you can't sell it.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. I've had.
If you can't rap, it doesn't really matter if you're on the bikini. People might look at it as, spank material, but people came to hear you rap. They came to hear your talent. And right after people are done with the visuals, all they have left is the music. All they have left is memories of the music, and they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives and start to use that against you. So
Sure.
you can sell sex all you want, or you can sell anything all you want, but do you have the talent? Do you have that something that is going to help truly sell it?
Sure. Do you think that that's something? Do you think it's like a muse of some kind, or or do you think it's like a very like compelling like story or reason that people like either like consciously or unconsciously like I get attached to or get wound up in, and that like that's what.
Either or. It can be either or.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm
Sure.
not going into as much detail because I kind of forgot the question. I was trying
No.
to listen to the whole entire question and kind of mostly caught like the second half.
Sure. Sure. It was kind of abstract of a question because it's like I don't know if it's like fame per se or like what do you think like draws people to get involved in like an artist's like rise? Like what do you think compels people to like really get involved with music?
That is very abstract because anything could. They can do music because, simply it's just, catharsis. They can do it for for the money to try and just sell something and get anything out of it, or they can do to kind of exercise some ideas that they haven't heard yet. That's where I am. You know, like I said, I used to play guitar, but I quit in 2014 because I didn't really hear any fresh way to play the acoustic guitar.
Mm.
I wanted an electric guitar. I'm sure that I would have gotten like miles and miles of ideas out of that.
Hmm.
But I stuck with keyboards, and there's a whole lot to take out of a keyboard, especially if you have one that is like 500 settings. There's a whole lot of things that you can express. And for me, it's almost like try and find some fresh new ideas. Even if the music may not be new, what you're trying to say over it is something new. And that's what pushed me. That's what got me into music. It's like what are you trying to say? Because I can't really be in there and be abstract. It means something.
Hmm.
So, and also my interest in I guess you can say the avant-garde, kind of the artiness of it all, makes me be like, now that you have something to say, make sure that it is obvious that you are saying it, because there is too many people in art who have this need to say what's already been said in the same way, and it kind of cheapens things. I guess you can say it kind of cheapens the art, it cheapens the message because it's a very roundabout thing to say, and there's not really a unique perspective on anything. Like, I don't really mind if someone does something art for the money if it at least feels like this is the way that you're doing it. And I
Hmm.
don't really picture anybody else making stuff the way that anybody else has. But that's something that I can respect.
Yeah, it's originality is a tricky thing. I think especially as like when you're a younger person that like you kind of just imitate the people that influenced you growing up, and then hopefully along the way you kind of find your own sound or find your own like way of expressing yourself that isn't too much of a carbon copy of your influences. But
I remember Spiritualized, one of my like one of the bands I love,
mhm,
said that Jason Pierce apparently said that he was going for the sound of the Rolling Stones, but kind of failed and created his own sound.
right.
I wonder if that is like the failure is really the key to originality. You know exactly what you're going for.
Yeah.
You know exactly in your head what sound you're going for or who you're trying to imitate, but you don't have that voice or you don't have that ability, but regardless of what you have regardless of what you don't have compared to what they have, that's the key to creating what you're doing, because you don't sound exactly like the Rolling Stones. You don't sound exactly like this. You don't sound exactly like that, you know, and that leads to originality, because at this point the failure sounds like you. It sounds like yourself. That's most definitely the whole idea of failing up.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's really like what that kind of really does translate to is like you fail 1,000 or 999 times, and then like the thousandth time you actually succeed, but it's only because you're able to bear the burden of failing all those other times that you found the thing that was like, oh, this was the way you're supposed. I made it or whatever.
Hmm.
And I feel like what you said was just very profound, and I really
I
appreciated
think
it.
that's I think that's the idea that I need to hold on to, because I admit I can be a kind of a perfectionist. I have an idea in my mind and feels like I will not quit until I get to it, or I probably wouldn't start because I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to get to creating this idea that I have in my head. But, like I said, sometimes failure can really lead to an idea that sounds exactly like something that only you can do.
Mm,
And that's the kind of art that I love and respect. Music that sounds not exactly like everybody else, not anything generic, but something that sounds like something that only you can do.
sure, definitely. There's something. Oh yeah, so on your journey, I'm assuming because this is definitely, I think a little bit happened to me, but you get people that are like very supportive of what you're doing, even if they don't quite grasp or understand exactly what you're doing or what you're saying. But you get the other side of that coin, or the other thing of like the people who are kind of like critiquing whether you asked for it or not. So I'm just curious, how have you as an independent artist like dealt with or experienced criticism, and how that has affected or changed your trajectory in any way?
Honestly, I haven't really gotten a whole lot of criticism.
Fair enough.
Like, it's not like everybody says that everything I make is perfect, but I have inspired somebody by the way that I've created certain things. I have had somebody call what I've recently created classics.
Mm,
I've had people really cheering me on, but that isn't to say that I don't have any idea of what I might need to improve on in terms of my craft.
hmm
Like, it feels arrogant to create something and to think that you don't like everything you've done is perfect. Like, something couldn't use some kind of con- constructive criticism that is going to help create what you need to do. Everybody needs some kind of help, but people want the kind of help that is going to help perfect. There's that word again. Perfect exactly what you're trying to accomplish.
hmm
And so far, it seems like people like what I do, and I kind of want to hold on to that while also being able to take people to like a new direction. I have been making music that is kind of it sits in the middle of anti-folk. You know about anti-folk, right?
I mean, I couldn't name a single
Or
anti-folk song off the top of my head, so no, I can't say that I do.
or lo-fi music.
Okay, lo-fi I'm at least familiar with, yeah.
Yeah. That and synth pop or synth punk.
Cool.
That's what I've been going for.
hmm
And I have been curious as to what happened if I throw spoken word, if I throw in jazz. I've really been like enamored, like really been into jazz lately.
hmm
So what happens if I go ahead and throw some elements, kind of beef up, or take some creative detours, and to see if they're going to be there with me while I'm you know, doing this.
Totally.
Excuse me. I love making when people are paying attention to making music, but I always have this interest in making sure to not stay stagnant.
Hmm.
Just go on and create, but make sure that you just don't repeat yourself. I feel like I've completely failed in writing songs if I write a song and it sounds like something that I've written before.
Hmm.
I always wanted to like take it somewhere. You're moving forward in life. So make sure your art moves forward with you.
Right. Yeah. We're always constantly changing and evolving. Like different person every 7 years. All your cells in your body are allegedly completely different than who you were 7 years ago. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I just it's
you're
all
either growing or dying, or growing or staying the same, which is basically what death is. Is once you change to that, there's no going back.
age or mature.
Hmm.
It's better to mature than it is to age. You don't have to completely change yourself. You don't have to let go, say your inner child or anything, but make sure you do it with some sort of, with some sort of wisdom.
Hmm.
Hold on to just not making stupid mistakes, but go on and still have a young soul, but never be afraid of, you know, bettering yourself, especially through art. I have
Right.
seen a whole lot of people who are currently in their 30s, and it's almost like they're trying to hold on to that time when they were 15.
Hmm.
Hold on to like the youth, and they aren't the youth anymore.
Right.
So to me, it's always about, growth. Every time I've made music, it seems like there are like a select amount of people who said that I have really been, my art has been growing more and more and more. I used to be in college and try and perform through performance anxiety.
Hmm.
I wanted to I wanted to write songs, I wanted to sing, but I was so afraid.
Hmm.
But, 10 years later, I'm doing shows and I'm writing songs with a much higher amount of confidence. And my music has gotten better. And, I've started taking on more intricate ideas and, started thinking up like harebrained ideas that probably would kill in like avant-garde circles, but not so much in like bigger circles than that.
Right. So it's tough when you're not so much when you're trying to find your sound, but when you're trying to find the audience for what you make, and at least you seem to have a pretty good grasp on like the sound that you have and the people that generally are gonna like it, versus if you try to play to a too big of an audience, you lose yourself, or you lose your ability to make an impact, because you're just having to water yourself down to the quote unquote target demographic of whatever thing is your washed out like version of whatever you started with versus what you end up with. But if you let too many cooks or too many other people tell you like, hey, like do it like this, then you lose yourself in that process.
There's a reason as to why earlier I did bring up, knowing what to say. I don't even think it's just about the message with me as the reason as to why I do have fans of the people who listen to my music.
Hmm.
It's not just about what I'm saying. I do talk from the point of view of someone who is, and all of these matter, Black, LGBT, and autistic. Because although I'm sure there might be some autistic artists who are in there, there's not a whole lot of people who have my perspective.
Hmm.
And also, I dip into a certain idea. Like if autism was music, I asked this question on Wrong Planet. If autism was music, what would it be? And like a vast majority of people pretty much agree that it would not be anything mainstream. Like I've gotten ideas from classical to punk to prog rock to like the Canterbury scene, psychedelic prog.
Hmm.
It'd always be like, say, progressive hip hop, such as like Deltron or MF Doom, it's always going to be something that is more likely to be underground than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's exactly, autism does not sound like or look like the mainstream at all. So
I think that's beautiful, honestly. It's definitely
that,
better.
so if you were to ask me what I think it sounds like, I always think that it's between, it can sound like a whole lot of things. It could sound like experimental rock,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of noise music. Sometimes it could sound like psychedelic rock, like space rock. Sometimes it sounds like synth pop, synth punk, because of that anxiousness, that nervousness of being within society. That's one of the reasons as to why I grabbed mostly 3 genres and try to mix them up:
Mm-hmm.
space rock, psychedelic pop, and I hate having to use the words new wave
Mm-hmm.
because new wave, like post punk, could mean anything.
Really,
Like I know the idea, but basically when most people think new wave, they're thinking like keyboards, synthesizers, and shit.
mm-hmm.
So, but it's a little too, the sound is a little too broad to say like minimal wave and or synth pop, synth punk. But I guess you can say that. But my synth pop, is a little bit more towards like 70s, the 80s,
Sure. Like
the time.
like
I guess you
disco
could say
maybe.
something like Gary Newman. I've had my stuff compared to Suicide
Mm-hmm.
back in the 70s. Apparently, that's synth punk and post punk stuff. I already said Gary Newman and thing. I guess you can say kind of a Silver Apples kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I perhaps not as minimalist,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess you can say a little bit more motoric in terms of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
But I have, you know, been very enamored with. I've been very into the 70s lately because it feels like that's a very experimental time. Not
Def-
only in terms not only in terms of uh, psychedelia, but also how electronic experimental artists were playing around with ideas before electronic music really had a chance to form itself and reach bigger artists.
mm-hmm. No,
So
yeah.
that's what it sounds like. I believe that there is a duality when you have autism. There is a moment where you kind of just want to lay in the grass, just be calm, just be in a very easy moment where sometimes you kind of just feel like a happy child.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like psychedelic pop to me. That sounds like new age ambient. And there's moments where you're just so stimulated that you want to bounce off the walls. That's like rock music. That's like Sonic Youth, or I don't know, the Blood Brothers. Just something that is very experimental, something that's very wiry and
Mm-hmm.
high in energy and feedback.
Sure. No, I was just gonna say I don't have autism, but I grew up with a bunch of people who did, and my brother does. So it's like hearing you describe it that way makes a lot of sense because it's literally like how you said like two different like things can be going on where it's like absolute peace and then like total and complete
Meltdown.
yeah, just like nothing matters. We're just gonna be in this moment and fucking freak out and go crazy. And then other times it's just
It's
like, yeah, we're just having a good time.
yeah, there, like, you can pretty much just grab from that it's about the senses.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure people will describe this as a neurological disorder, which means everything from the brain to your nerves, you know, can be overstimulating. To the average person, we really explore our senses more. It can be overwhelming. Like sometimes you can wear a sweater, and while others can just wear a sweater, to us, we can hate the material because it's so itchy, it's so scratchy, and that's one of the reasons as to why one of the common topics is cutting the tags off of t-shirts because it's just so irritating.
Right.
It goes with, the food we eat, the fact that touching can either feel good or it can feel like pins and needles sometimes.
Mm.
Or, sight. Sometimes, the room is way too bright or, not bright enough. I don't know. But it all comes down, everything comes down to the senses. Hell, it even affects the brain. Sometimes our minds can really, be overstimulated, or sometimes we can really regulate ourselves and just be calm and at peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very.
And people like to say that it's a mental illness. It's not. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that right now, but it is a disability. That means that you tend to really feel more,
Mm-hmm.
either feel more or feel less. It's all about stimulation that is more or less than the average person.
Yeah, there's definitely like a testing, if I could say it like that kind of way. Or you're just the maybe like the bandwidth is like shorter, but like the intensity is higher. Maybe if that makes any sense either. But I was just wanted to maybe go on to if you have any. I like to describe it in this way because it makes me sound smart, but like a telos or a telos, or like do you have a overarching end goal that you're aiming for with music right now?
I guess just to have people understand autism more and understand that there is one for every person. I have this thing where before I write songs, I always have song ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore I always write the title of the song before I even wind up writing the song. I have over 175 of these
Mm-hmm.
titles of songs having to do with the three things I've told you about. And I guess wanting to use my music as a way of trying to educate people through, the musical senses. Sometimes I make music that sounds spacey. Sometimes I make music that sounds noisy or very high in energy. That if you're really trying to portray something, especially in terms of trying to talk about autism, there is no one way. Like some people really try and have like a robotic thing, thinks that people operate in very, compartmentalized ways, but it doesn't always work that way. We do have, methods to our madness. We can have, organized ways of doing things, but sometimes we're so overstimulated that, we are very, messy, and we can be very messy and very unorganized. There is no one way, but it also depends on exactly what, importance that something holds.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we can have the organization skills of a serial killer, or we can just be very free form because of the kind of restrictedness that being, organized can hold.
Right. That's a tricky like balancing act of like if you go too far into organization, you're like self-constraint. But if you don't have any organization, then it's just like absolute chaos, and you don't know where any of your stuff is.
The hardest thing for us to do is to try and embrace the chaos, just embrace it as a fact of life. Not everything is going to be worked out. Not everything is going to be organized or going to be operated, in terms of, a system. sometimes things do not work out, especially the way that you plan it. And, it's hard for us to just be okay with that, because plenty of us do have, visions of how the world can be able to work out. Not just the way that it could work out for us, but of the way it could like generally work out. And it feels almost like whenever, we kind of lose the plot, that's when we wind up losing ourselves. And we do not want to lose ourselves. We want to be able to follow this idea that we were sold when we were kids. When we were kids, we were all told, that, you want to be more organized, you want to be more sophisticated, you want to be that. And then you grew up and hardly anybody operates like that. Everything that you thought that you were taught when you were kids, people don't follow that anymore. And it frustrates us, because the thing about being a child is you are told this is how you're supposed to do things.
Right.
You're told this is how you do things, and you hold on to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, wow. So if everything that we're taught when we were children, nobody does that anymore, then what the hell?
Right. Yep. No, that definitely was a big frustrating thing for me as I got older. The more and more people that I just, or like the way that I would do things is not the way everybody else would do it, or that like it's just not. There's no actual like standard. As soon as you like get out of your own house and grow up as a person, you're just realizing that everyone's just kind of like doing things their own way, and like nothing's really like uniform or like the same, and it can be overwhelming and frustrating, but it's also just the fact that like I don't know, on some level, like if you're competing and a lot of people are like slacking off or not trying their best, that like that means that there's a lot more room for you if you have the self-discipline to like keep going and pushing yourself to improve, that like that'll bring you in a lot for push you a lot farther along than the people who are just kind of like half-assing it or not really trying because they don't have the mentality or whatever thing that like helps them push themselves to continue to try to grow.
In the abstract, I really do think like people really try to compare being autistic to being an alien or to being a robot. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, like, in a way, it can be, because when you're a child, just like anybody who's a child, you're kind of learning how the world works.
Right.
You're trying to tell them, like, this is how things are, and this is how things are. People with autism try to really hold on to that. Like, this is the world, and this is, how we do things. Uh, okay, okay, fine. Then I'm going to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is what people do. Okay, then I guess I'm going to do it this way too. And things and the strings really start to come off once we realize that everything that we were taught as children, people don't follow it that way. The strings really start to get cut off once we learn the real world is that all the polite ways, all the sophisticated ways we're taught to be in the world, people aren't really like that. Not everybody gets successful by, dressing up, being polite, the polite society. There's even a polite way of being rude, you know.
Yeah, exactly right.
Like no matter where you are, there is always a very sophisticated way to still be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we were taught as kids that certain things are the way things are. And if there's anything that some autistic children are obsessed with, is the way things are. I remember when I was a kid, I was told to color a tree, and I guess they want me to try and color like rainbow trees. And I'm like, you have never seen a rainbow tree in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You have never seen like a blue tree, an orange tree. I'm sure they exist somewhere outside of America, but I have never seen it in my entire life. All my life, I've ever been taught that a tree is brown.
Mm-hmm.
A tree is brown. The leaves are green sometimes. How things are as opposed to how things can be if you use your imagination.
Right.
So the surprise, it's a huge surprise. It's a huge letdown to find out that everything, the way things are, isn't always how they are. You know, there's always different ways that things can be. Hell, there's always different ways that we can be. Sometimes, the richness of the world doesn't really work with who we are as, individuals.
Right. Yeah.
So, but that's our youth. We really try to have a handle on ourselves, and we realize, and it's going to take us a long time. It still takes me a long time to realize that I'm not like everybody. Like it's not a willful rebellion. It's just this is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you are. You're trying to really understand yourself, and the more you understand yourself, the more ridiculous the notion is on saying this is just how things are. When it comes to doing like basic things like washing the dishes or folding up the clothes, doing laundry, of course that is a rigidity, that you have to keep because that is how things are. When it comes to your own self, trying to understand yourself, trying to better yourself, figuring out exactly what kind of energy to be around, what will destroy you and what will help you thrive.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that not everyone can teach you. That is something you're going to have to look inside for.
Right. You really feel into it as you're living your life, that it'll kind of reveal itself along the way. Sometimes you gotta, again, fail a bunch or like make the mistakes of like trusting people who aren't actually doing what's best for you and them. They take advantage of you, or vice versa. Sometimes if you try to take advantage of somebody else, like it's just you'll do more harm than good living like that, and it eventually comes back full circle to like being a like
Yeah.
well-rounded, loving person, and that's kind of what I try to do, like pour
And if
from a
there's
overflowing cup.
and if there's anything that people with autism cannot handle, it's failure. We can't do it. That's why apparently we're so rigid. We're doing everything to the point where we're trying not to fail.
Hmm.
We're trying not to fail in anything. Hell, that's when we were taught when we were kids. Just doing anything different is a failure because you're not doing things exactly the way that everybody should be doing them.
Right.
You're not supposed to be, having your own individual way. You're supposed to be taught that this is the way, like this is the general way. And we try, but it only leads to us kind of feeling very frustrated because it's like, damn, if it's so easy for everybody else, if it's so easy for everybody else, then how come it's not so easy for me to just fall in line?
Right. Yeah, conformity kills dreams, man. Conformity kills dreams, and can really and so on some level it's like this is how like we are as social creatures, but on another level it's like, yeah, the first thing that is to go at the behest of like a crowd or conformity is the individual's sovereignty and their like individuality, and the thing that like actually makes us, this is a very paradoxical idea that like the thing that makes us all the same is that we're all unique, but society at large is like, like gotta force you to be this way so that you can like be good citizens and pay your taxes and like respond to authority correctly. And if you go too far uh off the reservation, then like you're gonna get in trouble or like put in jail or like end up a bum on the street. Like it's it's a weird game to play. It's super like, I think personally I'm here to like help try to like change that. And we're kind of, final question generally is such that if when I hit the stop recording button we were both immediately to pass away, what idea or like piece of wisdom would you want to be able to share if it was going to be shared with like all the rest of the people like right now?
It's I feel like it's gone. I have one that is way too general. Know yourself, learn yourself, just believe in who you are. Hell, this is where Bless Your Teenhood should have came in through. This is where Bless Your Teenager came, because you're still figuring out who you are, you're still figuring out where you are, you're still trying to figure out exactly how to adjust yourself so you can be able to survive this world, because it feels like a world you can't just live through. It really does feel like a world where you're just surviving,
Mm.
But in the meantime, don't let go of yourself. Know what makes you tick and honor that.
Fantastic, man. I appreciate that. I think I'm gonna just say that. Oh man, like whatever you do, do it well, and that be the change you want to see in the world, because no one's gonna come save you from yourself, and that's really all I need to add on to what you said, because I think you summed it up pretty beautifully. So my name is Sky Blue.
My
Where can
name
the
is
be?
BlueSkye.
My name is Blue
Sorry,
Sky. Nope, that's
one
my
word,
fault.
no cap. Yeah,
I
no
identify.
worries.
It's all good. My name is Blue Sky. Where can the people find you, and what are they gonna get when they get there?
Should I even give my Twitter? I promised that I would be getting off for the fall because of all the crazy bull crap that they're currently doing to X or Twitter. Come on, X is a horrible name. It's a horrible nondescript name. Do you realize that there's a whole lot of people who are on the side of like fascist society who wants everything to be the same? The buildings are the same. They not only want things to be the same, they want everything to be boring. The name is like a black and white X. The just X. At least Twitter, the bird, the logo is like you recognize the logo, you recognize the name. There is nothing nondescript about it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I guess for now, I still have it. Cosmic Blue Audi, AUTIE. On IG and Threads, it's the Cosmic Blue Audi. There's a big difference there. And I am on BlueSkye. There's no E there. As one word, no cap, dot bsky dot social. And I am also on Facebook, but I don't really use like my name's BlueSkye Facebook unless say I have a show or anything on there. I should probably be a little bit more useful, but I always use like my real name. I don't really give out my real name unless I like know you like that.
Sure.
But if you want to find my music, I am on SoundCloud. I am on Bandcamp. Just look for My Name is BlueSkye, and I'll be right there. And you're gonna get my rants, my raves. I talk a lot about music. I talk a lot about I guess you can say the human condition. I'm always flapping my mouth about something, but you're gonna see a whole lot about you're gonna see a whole lot about music from me. And
Sure.
music and art. And you're gonna realize I do have an kind of an not just an obsession, but kind of a real fascination futurism,
Sure.
with futurism and the avant-garde. So you're going to see that. You're going to see that in IG. You're going to see that in Threads. You're going to see that in Twitter. Maybe you're going to see that in BlueSkye. We'll see.
We'll
I
see.
don't know. I don't know. But those are the places that you can find me.
All right. That's it, people. Thank you for tuning in, paying attention, giving us your time and energy. Appreciate it very much. So let's do the outro. Never, ever, ever, ever give up until you discerns for your darndest best. No, smile more, complain less. Never, ever, ever give up until you discerns for your darndest best. Namaste. Have a great day. Slap shoot of his nighttime soon. Like, share, comment, subscribe to keep the algorithm satisfied. And I will catch you on the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.
Take care.